both singles and doubles with a completely different kind of spotlight on her. She already owns a 2021 Roland Garros girls doubles title, so this stage is familiar even if this partnership is brand new. The draw did not invent the excitement around her, it concentrated it. Then Paris added Victoria Mboko's name beside hers, and the conversation changed immediately. That conversation, however, comes with a real tennis question attached to it. Excitement wins headlines. Experienced doubles teams win rounds. If some traditional doubles minds looked at this pairing and hesitated, that reaction is understandable. Mboko's top 10 singles status draws the eye, Eala's rising profile brings energy, but a Grand Slam doubles field does not reward chemistry on paper. It rewards instinct at the net, trust in the middle of chaos, and the ability to solve clay court patterns under pressure. That is the challenge facing Eala and Mboko in Paris. Not scandal, not bad blood, not a villain in dark clothing. The obstacle is sharper than that. Expectation. They are young, they are talented, they are unproven together. And that combination can be intoxicating for fans and dangerous for the players carrying it. Because once a pairing like this appears on a Roland Garros sheet, nobody treats it like a casual experiment anymore. People start imagining quarterfinals, start imagining a breakout run. People start imagining that next-gen tennis is not coming someday, it has already arrived. So now the burden shifts. Can a first-time duo, however gifted, make that feeling real against teams that have spent years learning doubles geometry on this surface? Start with the simplest fact, because this story gets stronger when it stays concrete. Alex Eala and Victoria Mboko are officially entered together in the 2026 French Open Women's Doubles Draw. This was not gossip floating through fan pages. This was the draw list, the kind of document that strips away fantasy and leaves only what is real. That matters because official pairings tell you how players and camps are thinking. Eala could have gone safe. Mboko could have gone experienced. Instead, two of the brightest young names in the field looked across the net of possibility and chose each other. May 13 or 14, the list drops. May 24, Paris begins. In between those dates, one partnership became a talking point. Then look at the numbers attached to the names. Mboko arrives as the world know. 9 in singles, a player whose rise from outside the top 300 in 2025 to the top 10 in 2026 has been ferocious. Eala enters Paris as world know. 38 in singles, already established enough that her presence in a major draw feels normal and threatening enough that opponents cannot dismiss her as a feel-good story. This is why the pairing lands so hard. Mboko brings his explosive power and the authority of a top 10 badge. Eala brings clean, ball-striking, athletic coverage and a doubles resume that includes a career high in the top 100 range. One player can take space away. The other can use it. That is not random. That is design. And if your eyes widened the second you saw Eala's name next to Mboko's, your read on the sport was ahead of the crowd. You caught the significance before the conversation settled into place. Some fans wait for a result before they believe. Others recognize a dangerous combination the instant it appears in print. The matchup history between them only adds texture. These two are not strangers pretending familiarity for a Grand Slam week. Eala beat Mboko in the 2022 U.S. Open Girls Singles semifinal. Mboko answered in their most recent professional meeting in Hong Kong in 2025, recovering for a 3-6, 6-3, 6-4 win. That split matters for a reason deeper than nostalgia. Each woman has already felt the other's timing, the other's pace, the other's ability to adjust. In singles, that knowledge can be used to expose. In doubles, it can be used to anticipate. Imagine standing across from a new team and realizing the two players already know how the other reacts under stress. One has seen the other close. One has seen the other recover. Now put that shared memory on the same side of the court. The junior battle, the pro rematch in Hong Kong, now Paris. That is not a trend of conflict. It is a pattern of familiarity turning into partnership. The schedule raises the stakes even further. Both Eala and Mboko are also in the women's singles main draw at Roland Garros. So this is not a side project attached to a quiet week. This is double duty at one of the hardest majors on the calendar, on a surface that punishes hesitation and stretches every exchange into a test of patience. Eala arrives there after the Strasbourg loss to Olyanikova, a 6-3, 5-7, 3-6 defeat that could have sent the week in the wrong emotional direction. Instead, it functions here as a pivot point. One clay tune-up ends. Paris begins. One disappointment closes the door, and this pairing opens another. That is the rhythm of modern tennis. Monday, you are leaving a court frustrated. By the end of the week, you are part of one of the most intriguing doubles entries at Roland Garros. And then comes the emotional peak of the whole story, recognition from the stage itself. Roland Garros has already highlighted both Eala and Mboko as prodigious young names to watch, not by accident, not as charity, as a reflection of where the tournament sees momentum gathering. That distinction matters, because majors do not casually lend their spotlight to every promising player with a good social media week. They do it when the talent is obvious, the timing is, and the story fits the tournament's sense of what matters now. Paris sees two young players arriving from different national backgrounds, different competitive arcs, and one shared moment of possibility. Filipino pride meets Canadian fire. Ala's poise meets Mboko's power. A new duo steps onto clay, and suddenly the future does not feel abstract anymore. It has names, it has a draw slot, it has a starting line. And when it comes to authority on clay, there is no voice above Roland Garros itself. This is the tournament that has tested every generation, the major that exposes impatience, and the event whose editorial spotlight carries weight because it has seen hype collapse and champions endure. When Roland Garros places Eala and Mboko among the young talents worth tracking, that is not decorative praise, that is institutional recognition. It tells you this pairing is resonating beyond national fan faces and beyond novelty. The tournament understands what viewers understand. This is the kind of doubles team that can energize a draw even before the first ball is struck. That authority transfers straight to Eala's moment. She is not being framed as an interesting side note from the Philippines. She is being placed inside the main current of where elite women's tennis is moving. Now, widen the lens. What makes this partnership compelling is not only what it could do in one Paris fortnight, it is what it signals about the shape of the women's game. A Filipino star with a growing international audience joins forces with a Canadian already carrying top 10 single status, and suddenly doubles becomes a stage for the next wave rather than an afterthought behind it. That matters for fans who have been tracking Eala closely, because this is the kind of moment that confirms her story has entered a different bracket of relevance. The tennis world is no longer asking whether she belongs in these conversations. The tennis world is deciding how fast it needs to adjust to her presence. And there is a serial quality to this that should keep everyone locked in. First, the Roland Garros singles draw. Then the doubles run in Paris. After that, Wimbledon enters the frame. The US Open waits beyond it. If the chemistry appears quickly on clay, this does not feel like a one-week curiosity. It feels like the beginning of a partnership that people will search for again when future slam draws are released. Here is the defensible prediction. If Eala and Mboko click early in Paris, this duo will become one of the most anticipated unseeded pairings to watch at the next major they choose to play together. One statement win at Roland Garros could turn a nice announcement into an ongoing story. And that is why this moment carries national and emotional force. Eala's climb is not being watched only through the narrow lens of ranking updates now. It is being watched as a representation of where belief, visibility, and opportunity are finally meeting. None of that erases Strasbourg. Eala did not arrive in Paris carrying a clay court title. She arrived after losing to Alexandra Oleinikova 6-3, 5-7, 3-6, a result that reminded everyone how thin the margins still are. That is useful because it keeps the story honest. The partnership with Mboko is precisely because it is not padded by perfection. It follows a week where Eala had to absorb frustration, reset quickly, and walk straight into the biggest clay event in the world. Her recent mindset has centered on improvement and learning, and Paris now becomes the place where those words have to live on court. A Strasbourg loss. A May draw release. A world no. 9 beside Alex Eala's name. A prior rivalry turned into partnership. Roland Garros itself shining light on both players before the event even begins. That is the arc. This pairing deserves to be treated as what it is, a coronation signal. Not because Paris handed Eala something easy, but because the sport is openly acknowledging that she belongs in the company of the names shaping its next chapter. For the people who stayed alert through the rankings noise, the uneven tune-ups, and the usual hesitation that greets rising players from outside the old